John houses, we walk down to flush them out.
Welcome to the Hearts of Men podcast, a journey into the depths of men's hearts where courage meets vulnerability and wisdom embraces integrity. In a world that often measures a man by his outer achievements, this podcast dares to explore what truly defines a man of character. We unpack the challenges and triumphs that shape men's lives, bringing to light stories of resilience, compassion, and unshakable faith. We believe that the heart of a man is a treasure trove of untold stories, powerful lessons, and profound wisdom. Through authentic dialogues and insightful discussions, we aim to unlock these treasures, one story at a time. So, whether you're seeking guidance, inspiration, or simply a moment of reflection, you're in the right place. Get ready to be challenged, inspired, and transformed. And now, to guide you through this journey of discovery, please welcome your host, a visionary leader and a true catalyst for change, Dwayne Dwyer, but we affectionately know him as the Mindset Coach.
Good evening, and welcome to this week's episode of the Hearts of Men podcast. We're your host for this week's conversation. My name is Dwayne Dwyer, I go by the Mindset Coach, and I am joined by my brothers up top with me. We got Mr. Roland Walker, poor man's Dr. Phil, Mr. Shift Happens, and below us we have Brother Tawami Gaddy, son of Timothy, also known as the Available Man. Gentlemen, how you guys doing on this beautiful Friday evening?
Man, I'm doing well. It's football season. But that's neither here nor there because I'm here with my brothers. So I'm just appreciative that we got through this week and we can be here yet another Friday so that we can have this communication session.
Man, it is definitely football season. You know, Saquon got me 16 points last night. Let's see if Kelsey can get me some points tonight. Since my brother said my lineup was weak, but, you know, I love him anyway. As y'all could tell, we already on one. But man, you know it's Friday, man. You know we're missing our brother Unc, but hey, we in here.
Yeah, absolutely. Shout out to Unc. He's out there doing great and wonderful things with the school. I'm good, man. I am happy as always to be here on Friday evening to share a conversation with you guys. And also to share a conversation with the livest channels on social media. So again, we appreciate you guys being here. We value you. You are a functional part of these conversations. So again, as always, like I put in the chat earlier, make sure that you share your perspectives and ask questions because you guys know I derail a whole show just to make sure that we get questions asked. On this channel, we like to call you guys by name. So if you have not gotten into the comments and left, you know, your name, like just say good evening, whatever the case may be, do so that we can acknowledge you because we want to make sure that we give you your flowers now. So that being said, good evening, Crystal Everett. Welcome to the show. Nick D, as always, good evening. Welcome. Miss Charlotte Jordan, good to see you. Welcome to the show. His Divine Appointment, good to see you. Welcome to the show. Miss Lisa Keys, good to see you and welcome to the show. And anybody else, Miss Shanithia Burns, good to see you and welcome to the show. And again, anybody else out there, again, make sure that you get in the chats and let us know that you're here so that we can actually acknowledge you. Again, we appreciate you here. You know, you're value added. So that being said, let us know that you're here. Any other admin things that we need to address? Ready to just dive right on in it. That's what I'm talking about. So let's get this party started. Picture this. You're standing at the edge of a life-changing opportunity. Your heart's racing, your mind's screaming. What if I fail? What if I'm exposed? Did you know that 76% of men feel this crippling self-doubt, even the ones who appear to have it all figured out. Society tells us to man up, to bury those fears. But what if confidence isn't silencing the voice inside, but finally understanding it? Tonight, we're dismantling the myths. No toxic positivity, no tired cliches, just science, raw stories, and 5 proven hacks to rewire your brain from self-doubt to unshakable confidence. So get your pads and pens ready because it starts right now. So, gentlemen, as you always know, we tend to get into these conversations, and I like to give a little information to kind of get us started. So, societal narratives tend to blame insecurity on weaknesses. Like science reveals that men are wired to conflate failure with identity loss due to primal survival instincts. This is amplified by modern crises like comparison fatigue, which is social media highlight reels, and achievement whiplash, goals changing before they're even met. And it kind of reminds me of like when I was younger, kind of like I had these real big dreams. I mean, I used to think in the clouds and things of that nature. And people, I grew up around, they used to tell me, that you think you dream too big. You need to bring it back down to reality. You need to kind of, just focus on getting a job and do this and so forth and so on. Hearing that a lot was kind of disappointing. But what was even more disappointing is when I did not necessarily achieve what I wanted to achieve for one reason or the other. And I'm not going to say that I didn't achieve it because I didn't have the skill set, I didn't have the determination. I think there was some things, playing behind the scenes. Do you guys kind of like have any of those similar experiences when you were younger, growing up and things of that nature?
I mean, absolutely. I think I don't even want to say just as a man or as a boy, but only can speak from my perspective as when I was a boy. I I did the same thing. Like I even remember Crossroads, like getting ready to graduate high school. I was like, I want to graduate and I want to, I know I wanted to join the military, but then there was a point to where my grades got too good and I started seeing visions. I was like, I could do this. I could do that. Like mine was everywhere to the point to where I just closed in and focused. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to do this. Military is what I know. That's what I wanted to do, is what I prepared my mind for. It seemed like there was too many. I got overwhelmed, I would guess, with self-expectations. Like everybody's like, oh, you doing so well. You so smart. You should do this. You should look into that. I don't even want to jump because I don't want to get into something that we're going to get into. But yeah, I definitely feel it.
I think I fell in the line of dumbing myself down around people instead of reaching the full potential that I even thought I had, because I thought I was something, but the people around me wasn't. So I said, I want to fit in. I want to be like everybody else. I didn't want to stand out. And because I looked at as me standing out, it may overshadow them and put them in the light, which shows them how it'll make me seem like I think I'm a certain thing instead of me just being who I was.
Yeah, I can see that. I can see how that may create some type of guilt within. I get that. So this conversation here, again, we understand that this is the hearts of men, but I am interested in understanding from a woman's perspective as well. So please, you guys in the chat, all women in the chat, please share your perspective as we kind of go through these things, because I want to know, have you guys ever gotten to the point to where, was it that kind of stress and that kind of pressure on you when you didn't achieve what you wanted to do in life? Like, did you have like a life dream of who you wanted to be when you grow up and just didn't accomplish it? So I'm curious to hear that as we get it started. And also, if you haven't already, make sure that you hit that subscribe button, hit that drop down arrow beside the bell, and make sure that you click notify all. And last but not least, make sure that you share this so that we can, just spread the word as we have this conversation. So that being said, the very first hack is the identity detox. Now, the root of doubt as it pertains to this one is conforming yourself in society's strong, silent archetype. And there's a quote that I'm going to bring as it pertains to these. And for this one, The first quote is, "To be yourself in a world that wants you to be everyone else is the hardest battle." Now, gentlemen, I really do have a question specifically about this particular quote because I am curious. In your opinion, what does that statement really mean? And kind of look at it from the perspective like, how do I determine the difference between myself and who everyone else wants me to be?
Can we put the quote back up? Look at it. Man, to be yourself in a world that wants you to be everyone else is the hardest battle. What does it really? I don't know. Looking at the concept that you put out there, how do I tell the difference between myself and who everyone else expects me to be? I don't know. I look at that quote and it's the concept of trying to see through the smoke, to really find you. Um, and I like that you started with that starting question, or that starting discussion we had in the beginning, because along the way you can always lose sight of what your personal vision was. Um, Especially when you talked about the whole concept of get a job and survive concept. It's like we're taught to just jump into the system, and the better adjusted into the system that's already laid out for you, the better prepared you'll be to be successful in life, right? And that's really the concept. Like the idea that maybe only very few will achieve something bigger than the system. So you find yourself a lot of times, trying to change the essence of who you are to fit into what you think you're supposed to be. And that I think that's what a struggle is. If I get this job, like for instance, Coach, you from Georgia, Ro, you from Detroit, I'm from New York. Somebody in the chat talking about growing up in the Chi. Y'all know when we joined the military, it is a lot of changing that's expected immediately. Don't talk like this. Don't act like this. Don't walk like this. Don't behave like this. This is what a soldier looks like. This is what a professional looks. And it's like slowly but surely you're chipping away at the essence of what I believe my superpower is, and that's my personality. And so even if I achieve big things in the military, but if I lose sight of who I am and who I envision on building myself to be, because I want to fit the mold so I can be successful in this avenue or not. That's why I think about when I read that quote.
When I looked at this, I thought about when I was younger. I was always into music. I wanted to play music, but the fellas, everybody, they wanted to do sports. And then when they gave me a musical instrument, I wanted to play a saxophone because saxophone was cool. You could not look uncool holding the saxophone, even if you didn't know how to play. They gave me a clarinet. So the fellas, they went to talking about, oh, you this and that, and demeaning my manhood as even as a little kid. So instead of me following what was passionate to me, I fell in line with being a follower. I fell in line with, oh, I don't want to play that because peer pressure, because of how they saw it. So I think the difference between myself and me being myself and what everyone else expected me to be, especially at that time in my life, was me not following what was passionate to me, but was what everybody else was doing. Hey, we all play sports. Come on, you can just sit on a stoop with us instead of you doing what you knew you wanted to do. If you want to read a book, oh, you didn't want to seem like the smart guy. I didn't want to seem like the smart person. I didn't want to seem out of the norm. I didn't want to seem like I didn't fit. So for me, it was a long period of time where I did what everybody else wanted me to do.
First of all, when you bring up the whole band experience, that was interesting because I too had that experience. I played the bass clarinet though, which is different than the clarinet. So I mean, it's
Wait,
just
wait. You see how he had to say it was different. The bass clarinet.
he
put bass in his voice too when he said it.
Bass clarinet. But I mean, I really want to get back after this, right? Because you guys said some interesting things. You said, Roland, you said follow what I'm passionate about, and Gaddy, you was kind of like in that same vein. But I think passion comes from within and becomes like an expression of your identity. And I think a lot of times when you start talking about these younger people, right? Because we were once those younger people, I think there is some confusion about who you are. And so because I don't necessarily know who I am, that's one of the reasons why I gravitate to like the popular group, the in crowd, whatever the case may be, doing what they're doing and things of that nature, because I'm trying to find my identity. So to that person, because, it's probably about 14, 15, 16 years old, right? To that person who might be listening, like, how do I determine, number one, and I got the difference, understanding me and, who they are. And the difference there is passion. What am I passionate about? But for that person who is still struggling to understand who they are so that they can obtain that passion, what would you say to them?
I think when looking at it from that lens, I would ask myself, is this something that just is popular now? Is it just the cool thing to do? Is it something that I can see everywhere? And if everyone is doing it, it's like, am I doing it just to fit in, just to follow the crowd? Or is it something that's innate in me that, hey, when I get up in the morning, this is what I'm thinking about. This is what I can see myself doing for life. Or is it just the new Chris Brown dance or whatever TikTok dance that everybody doing? Because we're followers. We follow the trends. We follow the crowd. So I would ask myself at that age, like if I was there, I would ask myself, okay, is this something that is in you to do for you and your satisfaction, or is it something that you're doing to just fit in and be like everybody else?
Yeah, this one is easy for me because I could see it as an adult now, even in high school, right? There were some very unpopular behaving kids who became popular because they became great at what they were passionate about, or about what they were doing. I don't know if they were passionate. I that's just one thing I realized is that popularity will follow greatness. If you go on TikTok and somebody is adding some mean riffs on that clarinet to a hip hop song, because they got good, you laugh, but I saw a video of a girl playing the clarinet. Well, a Roland playing the clarinet. My bad. I don't remember what song it was, but it was a young lady, and she was jamming. She was killing it, and she had like 1 million views or likes on that video. Right? Like I think it is so true. Like if you go after that thing, the popularity follows. It's okay to segregate yourself for the sake of what you want, and that's just how it is. Like you want to get your mind in the mindset of a football player while you're on the team. Hang around your team, hang around the people you play ball with. Basketball, but role play basketball at NBA. I think he played baseball, so I played baseball. When baseball season came around, and I had to get my mind right, hanging around my teammates that played baseball, like made you. Got you ready for baseball. If the problem is the pressure, change it. For me, looking at it now at my age, change the surrounding.
Yeah,
it helps.
I'm sorry. I thought you were finished.
No, I'm finished. I'm done.
No, I do love those responses. My response is going to be a little different because this is the thing that I know a lot of us struggle with. If you're still trying to figure out who you are, like you need to sit down and have a serious conversation with your dad and your mom, right? Because you are the best version of both of them combined. And so just to look at one, sure, you'll get partial understanding, but you need that conversation from the other as well. So sit down with both of them, have a good, honest conversation. They may not necessarily reveal to you what you're passionate about, but they may reveal to you more clarity about your identity, because there's some things that you need to know about them. And those things that they're going to reveal to you will be almost like literally life changing. And then when you have a better understanding of who you are, now those things that you just heard, that passion, it will start to open up to you. And I think that becomes important. Again, welcome to everybody who has shown up. Good to see you, Miss Verlene McCoy. Good to see you, Pender Davis Joanne. I said it backwards. Her first name is Joanne Pender Davis. And anybody else who I have not. Oh, I'm sorry. I almost missed my main man, Stephen Kyle. Good to see you, brother. And anybody else out there, by all means, like I said, get in the chat. Let us know you're here. I want to bring a question up that Joanne asked because I think that's a good question that adults don't get asked these days. So, do you, as an adult, still feel peer pressure?
Yeah. That whether or not you give into it and versus whether you feel it is different, but definitely yes. On the job, like from being an employee and being a supervisor, people want you to act a certain way. People want you, oh, you should do that. You let him do that. You should tell him. Like, you're not gonna press me to treat the guy I rate differently because what you say you would do. You know what I'm saying? Like, so everybody has an expectation of you wherever you are. Roland's a grandfather. I ain't got no words for him because my kids ain't got no kids. I'm just gonna say that. But as a grandfather, somebody else may say, "Oh, you do this with your grandkids? Oh, you should do this, or you should tell your daughters to not let them." And he's gonna grandfather how he grandfather, but everybody's gonna have an opinion. Everybody's gonna have, and so and depending on how close and how much time you spend around them, there's gonna be that pressure. Just whether or not you give into it, I think.
Yeah, I think to a certain extent, yes. And like you said, I'm a grandfather. So like last week, and I made a post because I was complaining about I spent $80 on some doggone popcorn. Why? Because the kids need uniform. The kids need this. So they send them kids. They go to school and then they come back with selling popcorn, selling utensils, whatever it may be, but try to get you to do it. So you feel the pressure to make sure that your child is represented because they got a number up there. Like David needs this much money. So it's like, oh man, I got to make sure my child ain't lacking here. So, and that's pressure. Now, there's another kind of pressure that some of us may fall to that, I'm of the age where, like, if it ain't got nothing to do with them children, I'm at that age where I can just say, hey, I'm good. No, I'm good. I ain't got to do it. I don't have to do everything. I don't want to do everything. And I'm at the age where I can sit back and say, nah, enough is enough no matter what. And I think that takes a level of maturity that some of us don't necessarily have.
Did you say $80 for popcorn, bro?
It was popcorn. And yeah, I had to make sure I put a little dent in his, his little tally.
I got you. I just wanted to make sure I heard you right. I would have been asked, did they have a value? Did they got a value pack on that menu, son? I'm just saying.
Listen, I knew he was in grandpa mode. I almost had TJ call him. You got to do. They ask you to call contacts and see if they can make a pledge. And I was about to be like, he in grandpa mode. I know that wallet open. Let me.
So y'all heard it firsthand. Your child starts selling something in school, send them rolling house. I agree. I agree with the question. With your guys' response to the question, I don't think you ever, and I think Ms. Verlene McCoy said this as well. I don't think you ever get to the point to where you don't feel peer pressure. And I don't just want to leave it at peer pressure. I'm just going to say pressure in general. The first layer of pressure is the pressure that you put on yourself to be successful, or to do this, or to do that, or whatever that is. Like, we tend to put an enormous amount of pressure on ourselves. For men, especially if we have families, one of the first layers of pressure is to make sure that they don't have a need for anything. So that by itself can be pressure. But then it's like moving beyond. It's like, okay, so how do I climb the corporate ladder, or how do I do this to ensure that they can have more than enough? So the first layer is provision, then the next layer becomes more than enough, right? And then get to the point where we can relax a little bit, I guess. But then there's going to be other, layers of pressure. Social media give you pressure by itself, if that's what you're into. The comparison, you're looking at what somebody else is doing, they're giving you the highlight reels of their life, and you start looking at their highlight reels and comparing it to all aspects of your life. I'm like, man, this person is just doing great. I ain't seen them since we was in the army, and they're doing this and they're doing that. And in your mind, you just got finished arguing with your old lady, but you just got finished arguing with your husband. Like, man, I wish I could have what they have, but you don't know what they have. You only know what they show you, right? So to Ms. Verling's point, I think you're going to always have peer pressure. And Gaddy, I like the fact that you brought it up. The work setting, right? There's going to be peer pressure. There's going to be pressure at work. Why? Because work has a way of, I want to say, pitting you against one another, but it's always some competitive edge that exists. So, I want to be, I want to get the top block. I want to be one of one in our section, whatever that looks like. And so that level of competition is always there. So I think that's the thing. I think the thing is that we have to recognize, number one, even though that peer pressure exists, that identity thing that I talked about helps me to get to the point to where it's pressure, but I don't necessarily have to succumb to it. So greatly appreciate you guys' response. Love everything that everybody's saying in the chat. I want to make sure I grab everything. Stephen Kyle said that my big fault is having expecting my expectation from others. That's a huge one. And I think to other people who are looking at this, can I have an expectation of another adult? Let me ask that question. Can I have an expectation of another adult?
Can, yes. Should,
Okay.
no.
Okay.
Because you can have it, but it's like when you that's if you want to be upset, if you want to be let down, have an expectation for somebody, from somebody outside of yourself. Because I have expectations of me. Oh, I'm gonna start working out today. Oh, I'm not gonna be drinking these things. Oh, I'm gonna do this. But then I let myself down. So if I let me down, surely somebody else will.
I got you.
I agree wholeheartedly. You can, but expectations is a setup for disappointment. So hey, but I'm not going to sit here and say that is not normal in some settings, because when you were a junior fister, you did things a certain way. You learned a certain habit of being good at your job, and when you became an NCO and you had soldiers, and you had them soldiers, they just seemed like they couldn't get the things that you thought was simple to get. Like, it's that easy. Like, just do it. Sometimes we have expectations of someone to do a thing the way we did it when it's our turn to teach them, and it's like, why they not picking it up? Why? But I think that does nothing but frustrate you versus learning how to teach them at their level.
Yeah, I'm agreeing with that. I think like Roland said and somebody else said in the chat, you can, but you shouldn't. But then by that same token, I also view things this way as well. Because in the art of conversation, if I am talking to you, I don't think it's wrong for me to expect you to respond. That's just simple human connectivity. And it's not that I'm expecting you to say this one particular thing, right? I'm at least expecting you to respond to the question. And so I don't think that is wrong, right? So I think, to his point, I'm agreeing with him wholeheartedly. It's wrong to place my expectations on others, but I also think that there are expectations that exist between just common human interaction. And I don't think it's wrong for me to expect you to respond, especially if I'm talking to another adult male. Like, if I ask you a question, like, you responding, that should be a thing that should be expected. So that's just, my 2 cents I will add to it. But I love that comment. Look like Joanne hit us with another question, y'all. Joanne says she's gonna get her money's worth, and I love it. I love it. As a veteran, do you feel that expectations are higher for you than others? With the level of pressure, how do you handle that?
And maybe because I live in a military town, everybody here is veteran or serving, but no, I don't feel no added pressure. But I have nothing to compare it to, because I haven't been an adult without being either active or a veteran. Like, I don't. if there's any extra pressure that others don't feel, I don't have nothing to compare that to. But I live in a military town, so I think whatever expectations are there are of almost all of us here. But yeah, no.
I think the expectations are because people will say, "Well, you were in the army, and you it's their expectations." And it's always about what they think you should do, how you should move versus whether or not it everybody in the military wasn't a good soldier. They weren't. Some people were trash. And everybody, but when they get out, oh, I was doing this and I was there when they caught Saddam, and everybody make them more war stories and lies up. So I think that I try not to judge people off their military efforts, but whether or not we have a relationship that I can see how they move currently, because how you moved in the military has no bearing on once you leave. Some people walk around with Sergeant First Class, Master Sergeant, and things of that nature. I'm not one of those guys. When I took the uniform off, I was done with it. I got the ID card, but hey, I'm good. I did my time. I let them do what they need to do.
Go ahead.
Because you said something, Ro, like I've come to understand that some people are just not bad soldiers. Some people are just bad people. And putting on the uniform don't mask that. I know I got some battle buddies I see their Facebook stuff, and I'm like, oh, that's how you've always thought. And I didn't know it because you hid behind the brotherhood of being battle buddies, But I know those soldiers you're talking about. But I think some people just have just bad behavior, just period, as people. And we don't. A lot of us look at our society. We got there's veterans everywhere. We just got bad human decency. Our coexistence skills is almost non-existent now today. And so I'm not even pinning it like they were bad soldiers. Some people just. So if there's added pressure on you as a veteran, I don't think that that's fair. Like I said, I don't feel it, but I don't think that that's fair because people, whether you put the uniform on or not, you are who you are.
Yeah, I guess for me, I don't see it, and I think it's because of the pressure I put on myself, that the pressure that they're trying to apply. And I don't even think, and this is just me from my perspective, I don't think people have the genuine respect for the military that we think they do. So believing that they have this pressure that they put on us, I don't think that's realistic. Like I think maybe there are some people that we may know that have an expectation from us based upon what they want, but I don't think as an overall societal norm that it's just extra pressure for a veteran or a soldier or whatever the case may be. But again, like I said, for me, I'm that person. I put a lot of pressure on myself. So whatever pressure that anybody may try to apply to my group, I don't see it, nor do I even experience it. So that's just kind of like my response to that. Real quick, I think we need to bring up a divine appointments statement, and then we're going to move forward. She said people aren't bad; they have bad behavior, and I get that. I get that wholeheartedly. Now, there's part two, a second question to this particular hack that I want to get in here because I think this part of the question is interesting. Do you believe there is pressure on men to adopt roles that conflict with their authentic values? Now, I get it. When you're answering this question, there is going to be an underlying assumption in every answer that you give. So I'm going to put it out there up front. Number one, most men know their authentic values. So I'm just going to say that up front first as you guys start to answer. Grandpa done sat back.
I was waiting on Papa, you know what I mean? So, you said exactly what first jumped through my head. Like, who says that every man knows what their authentic values are? All right. If you wasn't raised a certain way, if you wasn't raised with values, if your parents weren't active in your life, mother or father, or either, sometimes these things can be void of your concept of living, right? And I'm not saying you can't have values if you didn't have that, but there are things that go into play to where people just believe. And I talk to a lot of people nowadays that just believe that whatever they do is right, and it sounds to me as if we're void of values. So with that said, there's pressure on men to adopt roles that society expects of men, period, right? When you date a woman, she already has a preconceived idea of what a man's supposed to be. And a lot of women are going to try to, and I hear this all the time, so, but we got a different group of women. I don't need to put no disclaimers out there. But a lot of women think that they can train you into becoming what they want you to be, and to mold you into those. And I think there sometimes we find ourselves becoming lost in our situation. And it's like, I'm over here trying to mold to what you want me to be, and I don't even lose sight of who I am. This ain't, but I think in those situations we tend to learn. And I'm glad Stephen, I read his whole comment, but in there you start seeing like those trials and tribulations are what start actually teaching you what your authentic values are. Going through, having these heartbreaks, having these letdowns, running into these brick walls, being disrespected. You tend to learn what your authentic values are in time. But even with that, I do believe that there are societal expectations of men, period. But the pressure comes, I think, is if you allow yourself in those situations to pressure you to be something different, because you can easily walk out of, oh, girl wants you to change your value. You can easily walk away, or you could choose to stay and feel that pressure, and whatever situation. I just use that as an example.
If you look at our what's on television, if you listen to what's played on the radio, if you see how society has moved from generation to generation further away from the family structure, I just say that, further away from men moving as men used to move. I say it like that. Women, how women used to move. It's like when you tearing away at the fabrics of family, you have no other choice but to tear away at the fabrics of men moving how men move and women moving how men move. So with this question, it's a yes, because when I listen to the radio, I hear things that will depict women a certain way, that will depict men a certain way, that don't align with my core values, that don't align with the respect, that don't align with the honesty, that don't align with these things. So when I watch TV, it's what I see. And then everything I see on TV or on the radio, I see on social media. And what I see on social media, I see in society. I see in the children and the grandchildren. So it's a mass effect of manipulation of how people see themselves and what they think is okay to do, how they think it is to move, whether or not we can walk around calling ourselves the N words or B's and H's and things of that nature. And it's just a word. No, it's not just a word, because once you identify that word, now you start to act like that word. Now you start to demean yourself, and you demean the actual being that the Most High has called you to be.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think, and I started off the way I did previously, is because I think understanding your authentic values is a discovery. It's not something that you leave the house after graduation automatically knowing. Like, sure, there are some things instilled in you at home, but when you go out into the world must test that. So now, what's your response to that? How do I respond to that? Am I under pressure to respond in a genuine way to where I'm not necessarily holding firm to your opinion about my response? And then again, I also add this piece to it as well. the things that people don't know, or they're not familiar with, or they're confused about, they try to manipulate, and they're going to always manipulate it to where they themselves are in the driver's seat of that thing. So if I don't understand women, then I will try to manipulate a woman to do what I want a woman to do, and vice versa. And I think you see that a lot. So in the space of just anything, whether you're talking interpersonal relationship, just human connection, whether you're talking at work, I think you'll find that at some point, if you don't know your authentic values, I think that's going to be challenged just a little bit, to the point that you start uncovering it and peeling it back, and then getting to the point of understanding how to express that. And now, once you get to the point of understanding how to express it, what do those boundaries look like? Do you know how to establish boundaries? Not only that, do you know how to enforce those boundaries once they're established? So I think all of that is tied into this, but it first starts with getting to the point of understanding your authentic value. And I think a lot of people struggle with that, especially in their earlier years. So great points. Thank you guys for sharing that. Great points to everybody in the chat, in the comments. I'm seeing what you guys are saying. But I really do need to move on, because I did not realize that time has gotten away from me. Key insight before we get to number 2 is that confidence flourishes through alignment, not conformity. Hack number 2 is about micro shame inoculation. Okay, micro shame inoculation. And the root of doubt here is avoiding vulnerability to dodge judgment. And the quote that I have here is that we suffer more in our imagination than in reality. And I want to say that again, because I think that is not only 100% true, but if we really think into that, I think we can start, unpacking some of the suffering that we may be going through, regardless of what type of suffering it is. We suffer more in imagination than in reality. So, gentlemen, the first question I have for you in this particular one is, does avoiding vulnerability prevent men from building trust in relationships? If so, how? If not, what does? You're muted. Oh, you just reading the question?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I was just reading. But I think I would say yes. When you avoid vulnerability, it's almost like you're nursing an injured area that you don't want to focus on in yourself. I think when you don't even want to focus on it, you don't want to identify it, you can't work on it. And just like you in previous statement up there, you had confidence. Confidence is a thing that when you work on it, it's like a muscle. You strengthen it, you build on it. It's not something that I'm just confident. First time you jump out of plane, ain't no confidence there. That's why you have things like confidence courses, that you develop these things. You develop. So when we're looking at being vulnerable, we understand that it's not for everyone. It's not for you to just expose yourself for everyone. But if you're never willing to push past that point, to recognize that, hey, this is an issue with me. And if I'm trying to build a relationship with somebody, yet I'm holding on to some things like that, and I'm saying that, hey, this is a place that I don't want you to have access to. You are limiting that person from experiencing the true you.
I like it. I like that. I would say, to answer the question, right? It can, but understanding how we manage our vulnerabilities. I think as men, we learn a lot of extreme things, right? We be stoic or be emotional. Like those are the two extremes, and it's like, learn how to control your vulnerability, right? Because if I'm meeting a friend for the first time, we just having a conversation, I just met you and we start talking, I'm not telling you my life story. I'm just, hey, what's up? Yeah. Oh, you like, I saw the Giants hat. You from New York? Okay, yeah, me too. That's what's up. Okay, yeah. Where you watch the game at? I'm probably gonna go down here to the spot, and we might meet there, watch the game together, whatever, and might build a friendship, might become boys. You never know, right? Time will tell. I think that's when the aspect of no one cares how much you know until they know how much you care kind of comes into play, because it's like, I'm not opening up and being vulnerable to that brother off the spot. Like the friendship has to grow. I have to know that, you a friend outside of just watching football. We could talk. I could, we could have real conversations about real things. Then we can begin to open up. The same thing in relationships. If just because I met you and you pretty don't mean I'm gonna tell you my whole life story. No, if I'm trying to date you, I'm gonna tell you enough information you need to know to make an honest decision. But I'm gonna ask questions at the same time. And as we see each other opening up, and I think sometimes when you're dealing romantically, you can get a butterfly thing and it's just start spilling everything. And she you just start telling everything. Well, and I lost my big toe when I was in this, but she don't it don't nobody care if you got a Dion foot or not. We just just get to know, let that there's a certain level. So I get when you date and you have a little vulnerability you show at the beginning, but as that let it grow, let the relationship grow, get to know each other more, then you can, how much you can open up. Even if I think even if you get married to a woman, it's got to be a certain level. Sometimes you got to know what she can handle, what she can't. That could be a part of the reason why we've had conversation about, men not being able to be vulnerable because you mishandled the moments I was vulnerable. Well, maybe you just learned that she can't handle that level of your vulnerability, and you need to stop trying to force it on her until she shows you she can. Because vulnerability with men is a sensitive topic. Because if you mismanage it, I'll shut it all down. This convenience store gonna close early every day. We shutting it down. That's my take.
Now, you do realize that some people believe that that's a trauma response when you do that.
It can be, but guess what? You live and you learn. So you can call it a trauma response. I call it a response to learning. I've learned. I've grown. I've dated. I didn't just date the person I married. We dated. So we learn from those things. Not everything is a trauma response. I think trauma response is when I try to hold you to standards to keep you from hurting me. No, you're going to do this because women done this to me before, so you're not going to be able to do. No, I think to me, that's trauma response. But saying, hey, nope, I need to control. I need to manage my vulnerability properly, so that I'm not hurt or this, whatever the case may be.
Yeah. And if I can just kind of just turn it just a little bit, because I don't disagree with what you're saying. I'm not necessarily managing my level of vulnerability so I don't get hurt. I'm managing my level of vulnerability in the stages of relationship. I think that's probably the most important thing to understand, because if we go into the thing fearful, then 9 times out of 10, we're setting the thing up to fail in the beginning. But if I do understand that this relationship has to go through certain gates, and when we go through this gate, now I can open up a little more. We go through this gate, now I can open up a little more. So now it avoids the immature behavior to I just, regurgitate everything I know to you because I like you and I can't stop talking. So I'm just like, yeah, back in the 5th grade, I stole my teacher's car and all kind of stuff like that. Like on the first date, bro, like for real, that's what you told her? No wonder she didn't call you back. So it's like those things, right? So you go from that thing all the way to this side to where, how was your day? Fine. I think sometimes what we need to understand on both extremes is one is the lack of understanding how to slow release vulnerability. And the other is the lack of understanding that I probably just don't want to talk about work. So you want me to come home and tell you about my day at work. I don't want to talk about work. I was there all day. I'm home. Let me be home. Let's enjoy our home life and not spend the next 45 minutes to an hour talking about work. Maybe I'm responding fine because when I ask you your day, I want you to respond fine too and not give me the rundown of every hour on the hour. So it's like those things can exist. Understanding what is the level of vulnerability that we need to have in a relationship. Now, don't get me wrong. If you got a problem at work, that's a whole nother conversation. But just to kind of give me the rundown play by play, I don't care. I'm sorry. Just gonna say it that way. And I don't mean no disrespect by saying that. I don't care. That's your job. You signed up for that. Now, like I said, supervisor tripping, you got a problem? Let me know. I am on the way. But other than that, Just that. So I think understanding the gates of relationship and having that slow release vulnerability can be a thing. And I agree with the question. If I am not vulnerable, I have no desire to be vulnerable, then I think it really does prevent us from building trustworthiness in this relationship. But here's an interesting fun fact. Did you know that 88% of men who lean into micro shame, admitting mistakes publicly, develop resiliency against rejection? So it's almost like they get to the point to where, and I used to joke about this, like when, I was younger, I was that parent that would make a fool in front of my kids if it would laugh, if it made them laugh. So I was the one doing the little dancing game and all kind of stuff like that because I didn't fear them looking at me that way because it was fun to them. It was funny. That's how we enjoyed ourselves. Well, I think the same thing happens in like adulthood in the leadership realm when we get to the point to where we become vulnerable about things. We did not necessarily achieve this. That's on me. I own it. I should have done this. I should have done that. But here's what we're going to do moving forward. I think people get to the point of looking at you like, you know what? Roland's all right. Gaddy's all right. I think I can trust him a little bit more. But if you think you presenting the image of being like, I don't know, the man of steel in every venture, dun, 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 no, people going to look at you, man, ain't no way in the world you that perfect. Yeah. You guys thoughts on that?
I like that you brought that up. And that's one of the reasons, like, y'all all know how I am. And I always say I got to be me. And I don't care, like, when the new brother come around, y'all know he say something out the way, I'm going in. I'm giving them the business. But I'm also letting them know, dude, that's how we joke. If I ain't care about you, whatever, I'll be fake. And I'll sit up here and, not even acknowledge you. But I'm trying to allow you to fit in so that this is a safe space where if you make a mistake, we can talk about it. And it stays right here. If you have a problem, it stays right here. And I'm for you. We can talk about one another right here. Never anything to embarrass you, never anything to hurt your feelings. But it's like, hey, we got to be able to talk about our mistakes and talk about the things that we go through in a way that, hey, we can look at it like, hey, we still here available to get past it. So, hey, it'll be another day.
Absolutely.
You said something though. You said if the boss is bothering you, let me know. I'm on the way.
I think you know what I mean when I say that, though.
No. I agree. I know what you mean. I agree, but I'm just talking about people who may be listening in, may not be in the chats or whatever.
Sure.
But in my head, I heard somebody think, right, in my imagination, right? I heard someone think, oh, he don't want to hear about my day unless it's something he can react to. He don't want to hear, and I'm not saying that that's what you're saying, but I kind of heard how that in my head. I'm like, I can hear that out of that. But for me, I agree to a sense though. Like if we both come home from work, I know you tired. Maybe not tired of talking, but you tired. I'm tired. But we have to be able to like, hey, I get it. You want to talk. You want to come home and you want to have that one-on-one time. And I can let you talk, but there's some points that you made that you could have left out. So so I'm not just listening for 2-3 hours. Because now I'm tired. Now I'm going to bed. Because I don't know about you, but for me, I feel like as a man, silence is a good detox for me from the day. Sometimes being able to go somewhere in the house, just give me 10 minutes. Sometimes just let, and then maybe I can engage to some of the stuff you want to talk about a little better after that. But it's not that I don't want to talk to you. It's not that I only want to talk about what I can help change. But let's not exhaust each other's energy as soon as we get home, because we got things to do. You know what I mean? I know it can sound a little cold, and I'm trying to word it to where it doesn't sound cold, because I think sometimes as men we can word things the way we're thinking, and it just sounds harsh. or rough, but I don't want you to just tell me just what I can respond to, but I don't need to hear every point.
Let me make it make sense then. Because I do like that you did that. I think for a large amount of us, we conflate our identity with our job. And so all we do is work and talk about work, or work, talk about work, and the kids. So the only thing that I know about you is, number one, this is where you work at. This is the position that you have there. And at the end of the day, these are some of the things that you are concerned with while at work. When that conversation transition, you're talking about your next identity marker, which is your children. Well, how in the world are we going to build some type of connection if that's all you talk about? And oh yeah, by the way, if we're married and you come home from work, I come home from work, and let's just say I make it home before you, or vice versa. It doesn't really matter, right? And generally, the first question you want to ask is, "How was your day?" Right? Because at the end of the day, I want to know, but I don't really want to know about the job. The question is about you. So tell me about you, not your job, right? Again, get to the point where you recognize that your identity is not your job, right? You made the contract with them, therefore y'all work out your own soul saving salvation. When you come home, let us work out ours together. You see what I'm saying? And the fastest way we get there is, how was your day? My day was great. How was your day? Oh, my day was great. Next gate. So now we done transition from the how was your day. Now we can get to the point of personal interaction within the home, so that we can get to the point of just whatever we're gonna do. If we're gonna chill out, watch TV, chillax, sit down, just have an open, honest conversation, or I don't know, let's just go to a restaurant, do whatever. But I don't want to hear about your job all the time. It's that simple. Roland, got that look on your face, man.
Yeah, because men are black and white. We like, hey, this or that. And we look at it like, okay, if you complain about so much, leave. If you complain about it so much, don't do it and smile there, and then you come home and complain about it to me. That's how most men, I venture to say, look at things. Now, if there's a problem, okay. But if it's a personnel, you ain't getting along with Sarah and her shoes and all this other stuff, men don't want to hear that. So I think we just see things a little differently. And I'm at the age where you got to get to the story quick. You can't go around all around the world and ain't got to the point. I'm here 15 minutes wondering what are we talking about, because I don't have the patience for it. I don't. And that's why I'm like, come on now. And then, well, you don't want to hear it. I didn't want to hear it. You wanted me to hear it. So, and I'm just being courteous to allow you to, but it's like, you got to give me something quick, because once you lose me, because I'm trying to keep up and you talking about multiple things that really don't pertain to me, it's like, come on now. Like, what are we talking about? Because I don't care about Sarah, and you going to work Monday? Hey, go to work. Is it a altercation issue? Is it this? Yes, no, maybe so. Then we can go forward. But I think that what other people want you to care for seems to be of the utmost importance versus what's actually going on, because they want you to feel how they feel, and that's not a plus.
I get it. What, man?
Try not to derail. But so you say that, right? So the next question that I hear all the time, I don't hear this question, I hear this statement, to the male response to this scenario all the time is, so then my question comes up, like, to answer their question, can we be their friend and lover? Because then I think in some women mind, like, no, me talking to you about all this stuff, we hear it's gossip, and we don't really do that. So once it goes off rails and we just talking now, you just gossiping, and that's not a thing. I don't know too many men that like that conversation. They may listen just because they want their girl or their wife to feel comfortable talking. So, but I think they doing that because they want you to be their friend in that moment too. So can I be their true friend?
It all depends. If we're married, no. I can be friendly, but I'm your husband. That's a big difference. Like your husband can be friendly, but that husband is not your friend. I think that's one of the things that we conflate all the time. And again, it's not that being friendly is a bad thing. The relationship had to start someplace. The relationship probably started out as friends and then it grew from there, which is awesome. But then moving forward, once you cross that path, once you cross that gate of being husband and wife, no, my title is no longer friend. My title is husband. That should do something different to your psyche when it comes down to our interactions all together. Again, yes, I can be friendly, right? But at the end of the day, I am your husband. And I think that's the just the underlying concern there. But I mean, if that's a concern for younger couples, I get it.
And that's girlfriend talk. That's something you talk with your girls, your friends, whomever you want to release to, complain to, and things of that nature. I think when it comes to like and Lisa said, talked about football. Football conversations are fluid. Football conversations are we talking about football. It's not like as if, oh man, I had a bad day at work and this, that, and other. We could have had bad days today or whatever. Things could have happened today. But we come and we talk about something that, is not downtrodden. So,
Besides, I'm not talking football with you unless you know football. Because I don't want to answer 50 questions when you start asking. I'm just saying. Okay,
Yes, sir.
We gotta move on. I'm sorry. Oh my God. So for this one, again, the insight here is to embrace small doses of shame to immunize against fear. Next, we're going to move on to the next hack, which is primitive brain override. And the root of doubt here is believing past failures predict future outcomes. This next quote, which is very interesting, it's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. Roland, how you say that word?
man, if I had to look for it, like I always at the bottom.
Epictetus, man, Epictetus. All right. So I'm sorry.
I was gonna say something totally different too, Rose. So I'm with you.
Yeah, man. So the first question here, or the only question here, is why do fear responses often overpower logic in high stakes situation? And what can men do to recalibrate themselves? I ask again, why do fear responses often overpower logic in high stakes situation? And what can men do to recalibrate themselves?
I think consistency and what you normally do will help with that, because fear comes when you feel out of control, you can't handle something. So I think that, I'm a person, I try to be logical, majority of the time, almost like Dr. Spock, because I want to make sure that, Dr. Spock, that's all he did was logic. He didn't have any feelings with it or emotions with it. And when it comes to how men react when certain things come, it's a muscle memory response. When you practice things and you normally do things a certain way, and you consistently, even in high pressure situations, you make sure that keep your calm, keep your cool, react like this. I think that's one of the things as a medic we dealt with a lot, because in high pressure situations, we had to be able to think cognitively and not just react, because everyone else is reacting. We got to think, okay, I can't be running. Everybody run that way. I got to run this way. I got to make sure that in these high pressure situations. So whenever we did training, we did high impact training so that we could actually think when things were going on. I think sometimes we avoid pressure situations. We avoid high pressure issues and we run from them. So when something happens, we react emotionally, we react non-logically, because we aren't familiar with the setting. So that's where we will buck up. We'll buffalo a situation where I'm the man and we're going to put our fist down instead of actually dealing with the problem or the situation head on, because we don't feel we can actually handle it at the moment.
Yeah. Gary, before your response, I want to make sure I got the question, because the question said, give an example. And have you ever seen the movie John Q? If you've never seen the movie John Q, it's a great movie. Denzel Washington stars in it. His son needed a heart transplant, and so what ended up happening is that the insurance, they was struggling on the insurance piece. The insurance wouldn't cover it, and it just got to the point to where Denzel felt the need to do something. It was already a high stress situation in regard to him losing his son. So he felt the need to do something. So he kind of, locked everybody in the hospital and barricaded them and made them put his son on the list. And that all stemmed from a conversation that he had. I'm not going to say all stemmed from, but there was a conversation that took place with his wife in the hospital in the hallway. And she was upset. And I think his wife's name was Kimberly Elise. I think that's her name. And she got upset and she was like, do something. And so now he was already under the pressure of the father. Now he's getting the pressure for his wife. And again, in this regard, that's kind of like an example to your question. And I almost got to the answer, and I don't want to get into my answer over Gaddy. So go ahead, brother.
Man, I'm glad you didn't give your answer over Gaddy, because Gaddy sounds smart for 10 minutes until, not even 2 minutes until Coach started talking. Now, man, Ro, you kind of hit a lot of my points I was thinking as well. Because when I think about fear, right, I think about when do I experience fear as a man, right? 9 times out of 10, it's in one or two realms. It's one, the fear of losing control of the situation, right? Not control, like everything has to move the way I want it to move, but lose control of the situation to where I'm not able to have a grip, to get a grip of the situation, so it doesn't fall so far away from me we can't recover, right? So that's when I see fear. I'm like, oh snap, this can go bad. Or, when it's fear comes in when it's a situation where there's so much unknown, because I've never been here before. I've never been in this scenario before. And loss of something is possible, and I'm trying to prevent loss. So for me, why does fear responses often overpower logic, high-state situations? Because it's a situation that I've never been in before. So my navigation of it is hard to move logically. And I'm just speaking of what brings fear to Gaddy, right? It's hard for me to move logically in a scenario I don't have that training or that consistency in. So it's easier to recalibrate when you can find some familiarity in the scenario. I may have never been in this situation, but I've been in situations to where I've had to dig, I have to do some stuff to like this. So the familiarity of it, being able to think on it for a second and not just react automatically, kind of gets me to a point to where I may not know the exact answer because I've never been here, but I know how I can get to the answer now because I didn't just react. And so, but for most people, if I can't get to a conclusion or a way to get to a conclusion real quick, I'll start moving out of fear, because I think a lot of it is just the unknown. It's the non-familiarity with the scenario or with the situation. So, and I look at, like, John Q did come to my head. That's why when you said it, I was like, yep, because John Q definitely came to my head, because I'm like, this man's never been in a situation. It felt like in the beginning of the movie, like, we know that our son is going through. We know that this is but we've always had a way to get a handle on situations. But now you're telling me there's nothing I can do, and I'm just gonna watch my son die. And now I'm dealing with my fear and my wife's fear, and she's looking for me as the man to figure out how we're gonna get out of this situation. There was probably a more logical response, but at that moment, he's never been in that pressure cooker, so he just reacts. And so that's how I look at it. When you really don't know, when you've never been there and you don't see a way out, sometimes those fear reactions step in.
Yeah, I love that. I was hoping that somebody was going to say the word, and y'all didn't say the word. I was looking for you. Huh? I seen your lips moving.
Oh, I was going with faith, but yeah.
No, not that word. I'm talking about that little almond-shaped piece in your brain that's responsible for being flooded. I was looking in the chat to see if, in the comments to see if anybody was going to put it in there. But yes, it is called amygdala hijacking, right? When you get full of emotions, fear being an emotion, like somebody said in the chat, um, and when that fear, it's almost like, you know, it's almost like a container that has it has a split in the middle, but then they join at the bottom. So when I start pouring water in one side, it's going to fill up one side, and so forth and so on. And that's kind of like what happens. Like when you get full of emotions, your thinking slows all the way down, and because your thinking slows all the way down, it's like the emotions override that, and that's one of the issues that you experience when it comes down to these fear responses. Because at the end of the day, I don't care who you are, like there is healthy fear. Don't get me wrong. There is that fear that is there to keep you safe. That's when we start talking fight or flight and things of that nature. But when we start having fear responses to normal everyday life situations, a lot of times we have that response because we are thinking about a future unwanted outcome that we do not want. Going back to the whole John Q situation, he did not want his son to die, obvious reasons. Again, it's a great movie. It's one of those movies to where when it first came out, I was sitting there crying like a baby because I could see myself doing that. I wouldn't. I don't know what I don't know how to respond in a situation like that. And I think every parent, man and woman, would have that same experience. And if I can, before we move on, I want to start with Stephen Kyles. Stephen is a poet, and he I don't know if he know it. That didn't mean I didn't mean to rhyme, but that brother be laying it down. So Stephen says, fear, like Mike Tyson, we are creators of fear. And when fear is face to face, we have fight or flight. We train for fear to be comfortable, or we think worst case so we can move easier in chaos. Battlefield pause. And absolutely right, spot on. Like a lot of times we try to set the conditions so that if this happens, this is the response. But every now and then, certain things happen to where I don't have a response for it, and that can be problematic. Nick D said that fear is an emotion. Emotions can cloud clarity. We have to learn not to approach situations from the aspect of emotions. If we stop, calm down, and think just for a moment, better decisions can be made. Absolutely. And Lisa said, when emotions go up, cognition goes down. Spot on. Joanne got another question, and I think it's a really good question too. I didn't start, so I'll just bring it up. When men experience fear, what are the expectations they want from a friend, family, or significant other? Look at Gaddy face.
I don't know, because if I call you, right? Like, and everybody know, at this point in my life, my best friend is 13 years older than me. I don't know if it's 13 years. I'm just putting years on his life. But it might be. When I call him, I don't necessarily want to fix, but I call my friends because I want to talk it out so you can help me get to a place I can get to an answer. Other than that, and 9 times out of 10, when I call you, I've already been thinking on it for a while. And I might even have an answer in my head. And I might even call you and say, hey, how does this sound? This is what happened. This is what I'm dealing with. How does this sound? Now, Ro, as y'all know, is a father and a grandfather. He's a father of girls. So a lot of times, Ro, he jumps right into reaction mode sometimes. He'd be like, hey, just do this. Or hey, do you need this? If you need this, I got you. I'm like, that's not what I'm asking you for. But I know, but that's his natural response. But that's not what I'm expecting from him. I'm just expecting someone that I can talk it through with. So if I don't know if the expectations are different, you know what I mean? But if I call Coach, I'm calling him because of his mind. I want somebody to help me talk through it. Help me figure out if I'm on the right path to find the right answer. Because I, as a man, not to sound, all macho, but I don't mind doing what I need to do to get out of my bind. I just want to make sure I'm making the right decision so I'm not going through a loop and staying in this hole longer than I need to stay. So what do you think? Is this where I should go? This is what I should do? Is this the right decision? This is what I'm gonna do? Or this is what I plan to do? And I just wait for you to respond. And they may just say, hey, that's what I'll do. And then I know good. I'm a rock with that.
Well, if you don't want my stuff, bring my weed eater back. No, I'm just kidding.
I'll bring all three of them back. You know what I'm saying?
No, but and it's true. I fix stuff in my mind. When the problem comes to me, I'm solution based. I don't know how to woe is me it. I don't know how to, sometimes I can just listen, but as I'm listening, I'm thinking to fix it. Okay, what we doing? What's the next step? I'm already planning while we're talking. So I think, like, if I'm in a state of fear, I don't see where, I don't know, because I think I look at fear differently now. I guess this is more of a faith-based question for me, because if I have a fear, I got to take it to the one that can fix it. I can talk to Coach, I can talk to Gaddy, but if it's something that they can't fix, if it's something that they can't do nothing about it, I got to go to the one that can, because it's like, hold up, maybe this is trying to get my attention to bring my relationship best with him so that it can get me in line so that now this goes away. Because if it's a problem with money or something like that, yeah, I can talk to people around, or I can do some things. I can pull some money out, but I don't know. I don't, that's not necessarily a place I'm familiar with.
Yeah, I think for this one, I think it's Gaddy. I love what you said, and I agree. I think the expectations at that point is that we're in this together. Sometimes I may be encountering something in my mind, and I am thinking about the worst case scenario. I may not necessarily feel equipped for this challenge that I'm going through. I am looking for you to sit down with me and give me some wise counsel. That's part of the number one thing that you can do in that particular moment. Then, in the midst of talking with you, I'm actually looking for you to listen, not necessarily, especially in the beginning, not necessarily to be, oh, it ain't that bad. It ain't as bad as you think it is. No, don't do that. Don't do that. Right? Listen, listen, and hear. Right? Hear what it is I'm trying to share with you. Not so much as the word, but the heart of the man, because if you can listen to the heart of the man, then you can actually understand. At that point, now what I'm looking for in return is to one of two things. Let me think about this for a minute, and then can we reconvene and talk? I think I have a better response. That's number one, if you don't have an answer right now, but don't make nothing up. Number two, if you ever to have a response and you feel that that response is a good response that will serve the both of us and the situation, that's when you give me the wise counsel in response. That's it. That's the expectation measure. That's it. You're a part of this process, right? So be a part of the process. Don't just sit on the sideline and be like, hey, let me know when you figured out. Me and the girls going to the store. No, don't do that. Don't do that. So that's kind of like my response. And I think that's what you're seeing a lot in the chat as well. Like there are some things, because I don't think a lot of people realize, and again, this is, can you still hear me? Okay, I thought it was me. I think a lot of people don't realize, and I'm not saying that women don't. I can only speak as a man because I'm a man. But there's a lot of internal conflicts that we go through when it comes to, there's some concerns that we consider that we never tell you guys about, because it's always a consistent concern. So when you see us sitting down being quiet, looking like, looking in the space or whatever the case may be, and you ask what's wrong and we say nothing, it's not because we don't want to talk to you. It's not because we don't want to tell you. We're trying to figure it out in our head first before we have a conversation about it. And I think when you understand that, that eliminates the notion that, oh, you just come home, you just sit down, you don't talk. Well, that
Is it me?
Let's-
Are we good?
Yeah, I'm struggle streaming right now. I don't know what's going on.
Okay.
We back now?
We back.
Okay, good. So I'm done with that one. Let's move on before I struggle stream some more. Great question, Joanne. Thank you. Thank you so much. So where am I? Because I kind of got off track just now. Thank you. The new insight here is your brain mistakes embarrassment for mortal danger. So we have to get to the point of rewiring it. Okay. That takes us to hack number 4, which is the shadow work shuffle. And the root cause here is the hiding unacceptable traits, sensitivity, fear, and gentleness. And I think this one, in my opinion, is probably one of the most important ones, because a quote here says, the hardest thing to see is what is in the shadows of your soul. Now, if you've never heard me talk about shadow or shadow work or anything of that nature, it's a very interesting concept, because it helps us to understand that, number one, your number one challenge that you're going to deal with in life is yourself, right? If you can't achieve this, then it's only because you're the one that's holding you back. It's not the man holding you down, it's you holding you down. So you got to get over that thing that is preventing you from achieving what it is you're trying to achieve. So that's where we do that shadow work. So that said, the first question here is, what suppressed traits often hold untapped leadership potential? And again, I want you guys to think in, and I don't have to tell you guys been in the army, you guys understand leadership traits, but what is the trait in your opinion that holds untapped leadership potential?
To be honest with you, and if this sounds a little left, that's cool. Overconfidence is something I think about. Confidence is good. And like I said, it might sound a little off, right? But reason why I went there, because I think sometimes we encounter leaders who can't evolve with the situation. So this is how we're going to handle this. This is what we're going to do. I don't care. Things come that may shift the situation or the scenario. And like, I don't care. We're not going to move it. This is what I said. And that overconfidence in yourself makes you believe that you're right all the time. But if there's no opportunity to learn or to grow or to adjust, I think one of the hardest things I had to learn was I can't lead every soldier the same. But that took an evolution in me. I had to learn how to learn some different leadership skills and some different leadership styles, because I had to lead everybody in the shop, not just the ones that adapted to how I move. And so I think sometimes that can hold that will hold untapped leadership potential, because you're one dimensional. Allow yourself to learn, allow yourself to grow, even allow yourself to listen to your subordinates sometimes. And I know if we just talking about regular life, even with I'm your kids or your spouse, whatever, not your subordinate, but listen to those around. You may be the one that everyone is following, but that's all right. Listen, pick up on what they are actually reacting to, and evolve. I think it's simple like that for me.
I don't know if it was simple, because I had to write mine down real quick. I think decisiveness, because some of us aren't decisive when it comes to making decisions and being responsible for the decisions, because we may be walking in a fear of failure, a fear of not living up to expectations of people, family members, such. Adaptability. Sometimes we can't adapt. When things change, we're so stringent on one way of doing things, one way of being, that we can't change. Say, okay, this scenario needs a different me than this one over here. So I think adaptability and accountability. We have to be able to say, okay, I made this decision. This is what I'm standing on. and I accept the responsibility for what it brings because I think this is right. Sometimes we run from that and we don't. Where you make a decision, what you want to do, or it's like you get into that. It's like, hold up, I'm here to make a decision because I'm accountable and I'm responsible for something. So I'm standing on my decision because I have the not the credentials, but I have the experience. I have the of working within this relationship and seeing how we should move. So I'm willing to stake my reputation on it because hey, we standing on this thing and not moving past it because not because I'm the man, but because I have a history of seeing how things work and I've taken what you said into consideration. So let's move this route because if I'm more comfortable with something, I'd rather move off of that versus me just side with to keep you quiet. Sometimes people side with people just to, okay, well, I'm just going to shut her up. She wanted to move it. So if it fails, I'm just going to let it fail. And that's not necessarily the right thing to do. It's a thing to do, but the responsibility is still on you.
Yeah. Your microphone, is it in your lap? Yeah, because whatever it is, you keep hitting it. And
it's just maybe it's okay. Let me move that back.
Yeah. So yeah. I think for me, for this one, and it's going to sound very strange. I think for me, this one is empathy. I think empathy is one of those traits that is very difficult to teach. I talk about it at least once a cycle with lieutenants and captains. And it, to me, is probably one of the most powerful leadership traits. And unfortunately, we have this perspective about what leadership is. And it kind of goes back to what Gaddy said, right? When we have a perspective of leadership, we think we have to always have the answers. We think that we, should do this and should do that and should do this. Well, sometimes as a leader, you need to recognize that you got a population full of very smart people. And if you just consult with them and get their feedback on certain things, maybe you'll come up with some better solutions. Now, that said, let's move on to the next question because I want to make sure we get these in here before we get up out of here. When men confront their shadow selves, how might this heal individuals and redefine workplace or familial dynamics historically resistant to vulnerability?
I think anytime you confront a you that needs changing, that has the ability to grow, I think it has no other choice but to affect the family, and everyone around you can see it. Everyone around you has like, man, what I wonder what's going on with this person, because I think that when you work on self and you do the work to grow you, it's a residual effect. So now, knowing where you were and who you were prior to that, now you look at other people in a non-damning way, but you understand that how they can benefit not just from you, but from what you've gone through and what you've experienced in the transformation. That's part of the transformation process.
Open accountability. And look, I'm making sure I'm reading it right. Confront their shadows. So how might this heal individuals and redefine workplace or familiar dynamics historically resistant to vulnerability? First of all, to fix the resistance to vulnerability, that open accountability, right? If me as a leader or even as a peer has created a work environment that is so tight, like people can't be themselves, they can't joke, they can't have conversation, or they can't do this or whatever the case may be, being open about my accountability, like, hey, I know that I've caused these things, my behavior this way, that way, or the third, opens them up to understanding that they are a part of the process of healing this situation or this dynamic we have at work, right? That is not just I I changed everything is all right. No, how do we repair this thing? Let me show you that I'm being accountable because now that's for you. I'm letting you know that I affected you, that I may have hurt you, or whatever I did, it helped create this environment. Now let's work together to fix it. Because if I think that I can fix the dynamic by myself, I can work on me. But if I think that I can fix the dynamic by myself, I miss the whole point of taking accountability because now I'm creating another environment that I envision versus we create an environment that we can exist in together. And however that looks, whether we talking it out together or what have you, we writing a plan down or whatever we're doing, what that looks like. But open accountability, I think, works in both scenarios, the familial in the workplace dynamic. Because because you man don't mean your wife is not a part of this environment. And in fact, if you allow that woman to fully express herself, because I think some men can be so, no, this, and this. You allow her to fully express herself, she'll create an environment for you in a lot of ways that'll be more open to the family, to a family dynamic. Not saying that men can't, but women bring a different dynamic. They bring a different environment naturally to the home.
Yeah, I agree. I think, and I'll keep my response short here. When we confront our shadow selves, what we're doing in that process is we're tearing down the walls of our insecurities. When we get rid of those insecurities, then what you will find is that it unplugs the blockage, right? You unplug the blockage that's preventing the flow for the relationship, whether we're talking familiar relationships, whether we're talking work relationships. Once you open the gates and the flow starts to, happen again in that relationship, which what ends up happening is that now everybody can get to the point of being the best versions of themselves in the relationship for the sake of the progressive nature of that relationship. So the insight for this one is confidence grows when you confront your shadow self through action. Don't say you're doing something and do absolutely nothing. It takes action for you to do it. I got one more. Can I get one? Can I get the last one in real quick before we get the final thoughts? Okay, real good. All right, last one, number 5 is reverse validation loop, and that's kind of goes without saying. The root of doubt here is seeking external approval to feel worthy. And the quote here is, "Your heart knows the way. Run in that direction." And so I'm just going to ask one question here. How does the cycle of external validation sabotage intrinsic motivation?
It sounds like you lose authenticity, right? The way when I'm hearing it in my head, because now I'm performing for praise and not moving off of what's in me. Right? This is what got me here. Like that external praise came from, or that external validation came from me being authentic to what's on the inside. But now, let's I can even talk about in the church days, when you singing the song, the first time you got that stand ovation, you was just singing it how you felt it, letting you sing letting it just come out of you is what got you that sing that song, baby, when you was 10. But now that you got that and you become addicted to the clap and you become addicted to the go ahead now, you now perform for that reaction versus allowing it to be authentic with what is in you. And so I feel the same way just all throughout life. Once you start performing for that validation or behaving for that validation, it's performance, and it's no longer authentic to you.
I think when you start doing things for external validation, when you find that dopamine response or you get that high, or you get whatever it is, that validation. When you start seeking that, you are running towards the applause, towards the attaboys, towards the pats on the back, versus you doing something simply for the motivation that, hey, I'm here to do a good job. I'm appreciative for what is, and I will do it to just to do it. Because sometimes people want to do things because they're good at it. They're good at it, and that's what you see children do. I see, like my grandson plays football. He plays football now because he likes it. He didn't like it at first when he had to go through the troubles of figuring it out. Hey, you got your feet has to be here and this, that. But as he grew to enjoy it, now it's more or less, I like doing it, and I will do it even if I'm losing. Some people only do things when they are applauded versus them actually loving what they do. And that can mess with your psyche, because when you don't get those pats on the back and you look for, like, wait a minute, I thought I did a good job. Or wait a minute, I sang my heart out and I got nothing from it. That's where you start to see the depression and all these other things set in, because now it took other people to lift me up so that I could feel a certain way versus me just feeling a certain way because I am.
Yeah, just to add clarity, the external validation loop begins on the outside. Somebody wants me to do a thing, therefore I do it because I know me doing that thing is going to make them happy. So now I'm seeking their response after I'm doing it. And so the issue with this external validation loop is that there is no intrinsic value that is injected in the thing that I'm doing. I'm doing it looking purely for the external validation. So like I keep saying, this life that we live is supposed to be lived from the inside out. So there you have it. Listen, great comment, great responses, everybody. Love everybody's comment in the chat. I'm sorry I had to started focusing on getting through this because we were running short on time. Greatly appreciate the comments, questions. Joanne, thank you so much. They were great questions. I hope we served you well with the answers. But as you guys always know, this brings us to our bittersweet moment. Final thoughts.
Ooh, I love this conversation, man. Thank you, Coach, for this convo. It hit deep, it hit home, and I hope it helps somebody. Of course, it helps me. But when I hear the word self-doubt, we're talking about crushing self-doubt. My key word there is self, right? How do I crush self-doubt? Is I start understanding, and I speak for me. I start understanding that I operate in the Most High. I operate in His Word, so therefore I find my validation there. But if I have my self-doubt comes because I have convinced myself of expectations that someone else may not have convinced themselves of for me, and I'm thinking that this is what is expected of me. But when I know what the word of the Most High says and what that expectation is, I move in Him. I'm no longer looking for these external validations. I'm no longer looking for the people to be happy. I'm no longer pushed by peer pressure, because none of that matters. When we start allowing all these different voices to get into our psyche and into our mind, that is what creates these self-doubts. But when my focus is on the Most High, doing what He requires of me, and I'm only validated based upon the scriptures, then it's easy to walk, because I understand now that my help is with me, and that's His Spirit. But that's all I got. Love you.
5 confident hacks that actually work. I think we talked about a lot tonight, and realizing that when it comes to confidence, confidence is something that is intrinsic, but it's worked on. It can be an extrinsic or intrinsic thing, because when you know who you are, when you start adding value to yourself, knowing who you are, knowing what you will stand for, knowing what you can fall for, then it allows you to see yourself not in a higher light, but a reality. And having confidence, when we talk about confidence, having confidence is something that when you do it often, when you consistently do a thing, you get used to doing a thing. And when you practice it, you learn what it is that where you failed before, or where there was a misstep or a mishap. So when you are confident in something, it's something that you've experienced over and over and over. So now it becomes second nature, and it becomes a muscle memory thing. And we have to get to the point to where we understand who we are and whose we are, so that we won't fall for the trap, so that we won't have these missteps, and we can be encouragers and not always need to be encouraged by certain things. We can be the lifters of heads at the same time, while others can lift ours also. So we have to look within to see where it is that I need to grow, where it is that I need to move forward, things that I need to work on, so that I can be a builder, so that I can be confident in self. And realizing that as I'm confident in me, I'm realizing that it's not necessarily about me. It's about him pushing things through me so that I can help you. And that's all of us.
So I greatly appreciate everybody's contribution to this this conversation tonight. I'm gonna keep mine short. If you have never read Carpenter's Pact, it is about, like, it's a modern day parable about a man who trades perfection for purpose. Learning that true strength lies in self-alignment and not societal applause. Confidence is, well, it isn't the absence of doubt, it's the courage to act despite of it. And I think that's where we have to get to in our life, because the irony is that when you stop fighting self-doubt, actually it stops fighting you. And that's my final thought. So as always, greatly appreciate you guys. I know we went a little long, but we greatly appreciate you guys for staying. Make sure that you check the show notes. That's where you get the value beyond the podcast. That said, the new blog is out for the month of September, so go ahead and click on that and enjoy it. A lot of hard work was put in that. We greatly appreciate his divine appointment for that. Greatly appreciate everybody in the chat: Crystal, Nick D, Lisa, Miss Verlene McCoy, Joanne. Greatly appreciate you. Everybody who was here tonight, Stephen, everybody. Great conversation. Listen, enjoy the rest of your evening. Have a fantastic weekend. We go live on TikTok at 11:30 Eastern Standard Time. Is it you? Oh, it's you?
No, you remember it's Nodella.
Yeah, no doubt.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's
I
right.
thought you was thinking about our time, but I'd be forgetting most of y'all over there. Yeah, they
So
don't care about our
11:30.
time, bro.
Yeah. So 11:30 Eastern Standard Time, we'll go live on TikTok, and that's when we talk about, like, just everyday life as it pertains to the Bible. So again, make sure that you join us. If you don't know, you can follow myself. What is it? The _mindset_coach. You can follow Poor Man's Dr. Phil. You can follow, he actually goes by his name on TikTok, Tawami Gaddy. So yeah, just follow us, follow the Voice of Reason, follow all of us, because we do that every week. So listen, that said, you guys enjoy the rest of your evening. Let the best version of yourself be a blessing to someone else, and we'll see you next week.